Brianna, homeschool mom to two. My third is just a baby, so not quite there yet. And today I wanted to do a quick comparison. So I wanted to compare it to kind of like reading language arts programs. And I am schooling kindergarten and first grade, so that's kind of what this is about. And the ones I wanted to compare were Logic of English and The Good and the Beautiful. And so I'm doing Logic of English A, the Foundations A program, and then the Good and the Beautiful kindergarten program. So they are quite different in that Logic of English is like a phonics reading program, and the Good and the Beautiful is more of a, I don't want to say like a full curriculum because they don't have like math and science and all that stuff, but they do like a little bit of writing, a little bit of reading, a little bit of, a lot of things, but I'll get into that. So first I wanted to talk about Logic of English, which is my all-time favorite program, like of any math, science, anything that I've ever tried. Like I have a link for that because I'm obsessed. Every video I talk about it. Love Logic of English. My oldest son is 7 and he is in speech therapy, and this has helped him like leaps and bounds. You know what, before I start rambling, I'm just going to show you. So it comes with the Doodling Dragons book, the student book, and then the teacher manual. And you can get like a starter set that has a bunch of like flashcards and letter tiles and all those extra things. But in my opinion, it's a lot more expensive and not super necessary. If I were to do it over again, I would just get these 3 books and use like my own flashcards. Really. I mean, if you're doing the handwriting component, the flashcards are kind of nice because they're kind of sandpapery, so like tactile, you can feel it. But I don't love their handwriting component as much as I love them. Quick example, they teach letter A as like a roll and then a line, but the line's like slanty. And so it just ends up being confusing. So we use handwriting without tears for that. But as far as like phonics go and learning to read go, Logic of English, greatest of all time. So let's see. Maybe first I'll go through just like the teacher manual a little bit. And I have tabbed like the very last lesson because we've already finished this book. But for example, so like lesson 38 in the A book, and they go through like A through D for the foundations, and then they have like the essentials program later on. So in lesson 38, we are learning long vowels. We are learning the letter Z. We're using our flashcard for the letter Z and talking about the sounds it makes. And then we're looking at our Doodling Dragon book, letter Z. And then there's like a handwriting component for that. And you can either do cursive or regular handwriting if you choose to do that. Then we're playing a phonogram board game, which is in the book, the student book. And then we are spelling if, zip, fox, flag, and flap. And then we are doing a high frequency word maze, kind of a little game that's also in the student book. So that would be your lesson for lesson 38 in this book. And we really, really like it because it incorporates games into it while still being short. And it is very open and go for how much the kids kind of are moving around and getting to do things. So those are some things that I super, super love. I love open and go, easy for me. And my kids don't mind doing this. And a lot of other things they have been like kind of grumbly about. But they do like doing this a lot because, like, for example, I'll break the words out like d, a, n, s, and they'll get up and dance to like show me that they know what I'm saying. And so it really incorporates like learning with movement, which we really like. And then there's games in here like phonogram bingo. I'll say a for the letter A, and then they'll like mark their little A. So we really, really like doing this, and I think that it gives us a really good grasp on all of the different sounds that each letter makes, and so we're not confused later on when we see a word that doesn't just have like a for apple, you know? So it just really gives a really good foundation of all of the sounds. And I think that it has helped us tremendously with learning how to read, which is one thing I was worried about starting homeschool, because I don't know how to teach anybody how to read. And I was like, how am I going to do that? I don't even know how to teach somebody to potty train barely. You know what I mean? And it has made it super, super easy. My 4-year-old learned how to read. He's 5 now, but he learned how to read when he was about 4.5 with this program. And so I love that. They read their readers, like those little reader books that come with it. They read those each, like one each, every single night before bed, before I read our chapter books. So I really like this. And it's a secular program, purely secular. Like, we're basically learning the letters and the sounds that the letters make. I'll show you a little bit in the Doodling Dragons book, which I was like, the sound book, like, why do I need that? But it has been tremendously helpful because there are some letters I didn't know that they made all these sounds. Like, for example, the letter U makes 4 sounds, and the book lays it out really nicely. It color coordinates, like, this blue U makes for ugly. The orange one makes U for bugle. Like, it color coordinates so that you can teach it easily, because I didn't know this stuff before starting it. Like, letter Y also makes 4 sounds. So they're learning that these letters make all these different sounds, and it helps really well with reading. And so I really love the Logic of English program. On the other side, we have our Good and the Beautiful. And we did try this initially, and we got pretty far with it with my oldest son. We got, almost at the end, we got to lesson 84. So we did give it a good go. And we are more of a secular family. We have our personal beliefs, but we like to school secular. And the Good and the Beautiful is definitely not that. They do talk quite a bit about faith-based stuff. A quick example off the top of my head is, like, they'll show a picture of mountains and be like, aren't these mountains that God made beautiful? Like, God made so many beautiful things in the world. And it's easy to skip over. Not a huge deal. But it is in there. And I have kind of a lot of gripes with the Good and the Beautiful. So I guess I'll go over them. So one thing that I did not love is it's really pretty. And I like that. But it's kind of laid out. Like, we have just like a little bit of writing here, a tiny bit of like reading on the top, a little bit of like putting the I versus a, like, I am in the fog, a cat is on the rug. It just feels like it's not enough. It feels like we're doing just a little bit of writing and a little bit of reading and a little bit of art, whereas I would definitely prefer to break those out separately. With the Logic of English, we are getting much more in-depth reading and phonics help, whereas in the Good and the Beautiful, it's just like a tiny portion of each lesson. And the second thing that I did not like about doing this is that they kind of expect you to know and have things memorized before the lesson. And that was hard for me and my son, because he's like, what's going on? I don't know these things. And I'm like, I don't know how to teach these things before the lesson even starts. And so, it works really, really well for a lot of people. For us, I just didn't really love it. I think that we do much better with a separate geography and a separate phonics and a separate art and just a little bit more in depth with everything. They do also come with the booster pack, and they have little like target markers in the book, like, you should be at booster number 5 now, like, stop this lesson if you haven't gotten to that. So that's helpful. But again, I didn't really love this. It was like, it was a lot of memorization, a lot of sight word memorization, whereas in Logic of English, we don't have to memorize anything. We are learning how to read it as it comes and the different sounds that things make. So like Good and the Beautiful wants you to memorize he, she, the, we, blah, 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 blah. And in Logic of English, we talk about how like the word the, like we learn th, and then how it like connects as a word. And same with like sh, e, she. Like we're learning it phonetically versus just memorizing it. And we did start out like memorizing all these things. I had a whole word, like a whole page of sight words, and we did it, and it just felt like it didn't stick as well. Like memorizing it versus learning it phonetically. You know what I mean? Like learning it himself, I feel like he really grasped on a lot more than just memorizing. So there's that, and then it also came with the booster books, and I will open that, and I think there's 20 of them, and they're really cute. I mean, yeah, we liked these ones, and we still kind of read them sometimes. They're a little bit flimsy and a little bit small compared to, I don't have the Logic of English books, but they're like the typical like readers that you see that are kind of like tall and skinny, and these ones are a lot smaller. But they're cute. There are some faith-based ones in here. One's called like Pray, and it's all about praying, but you know, whatever, skip it if you don't like it. But yeah, so those are the readers. So yeah, maybe a little bit of a shorter video, but in my opinion, Logic of English is a lot more in-depth with reading and phonogram help, and it is a secular program. The Good and the Beautiful, it goes over more topics, but it's not as in-depth. Like the lessons, you know, it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and it is not secular. So hopefully this was helpful. It helps you make a decision, whichever you choose. I'd love to know.